I know I promised a different video this week, but I had a breakthrough, for lack of a better word. And this felt way more urgent to share with you because it kind of feeds into everything else we've been talking about over the last couple of weeks. And it's something I think I've finally figured out. I mean, I've spent years building technical skill and upgrading my gear, learning to take a solid photograph in almost any circumstance. I know how to edit fairly well, and I even know how to use manual mode. And for a lot of photographers, including me when I started out, that was the original dream. But lately, I've started to feel this itch, this restlessness I just couldn't articulate. Like, it's time to push through to the next level of my photography. But what does that even look like? What am I missing? First and foremost, I'm going to preface this video with two things. The first is that I've actually already recorded this video today, and then I put it into my computer and found that there was no audio. So I've made sure the microphone's on this time, and I think we're going to be good to go. But if the lighting changes around me, it is getting into the evening, so just a heads up. And number two, what I actually wanted to preface this video with is that my technical skills could still do with some refining. So if you're like, good for you, Tracy, you've nailed it, and you're ready to move on, but I'm not, I want to say this video is still for you. Because while it's important to understand the technicalities of what makes a good photograph, exposure, shutter speeds, etc., you don't have to be technically perfect to change trajectory in the way that I'm talking about today. Let me just paint this for you. As I mentioned in the intro, I thought I was going to spend this week redoing the wedding page on my website, and then make a video on that based around all the discussions that we've had over the last couple of weeks. But when I sat down to do it, I realized I was stuck. I realized I couldn't move forward until I figured out why I was stuck. Why this feeling of restlessness was making me feel like I wanted to avoid doing it. And it came down to this. I realized I was trying to build a business around a version of myself that I think I've outgrown, and it was reflected everywhere on my website. I knew that my website wasn't right, but I just couldn't put my finger on exactly what it was about it that was irritating me. And last week's video about feelings really hit me in the face. That none of my website represents any kind of feeling, either from the client's perspective or from my perspective. And now that I've opened that can of worms, I can't put the lid back on. For years, I focused on getting technically good, and I'm going to guess that if you're watching this video, that's some version of your story as well. Nailing exposure, focus, composition, and clean edits. I built up a solid foundation, and that gave me kind of a safety, because I realized that I could deliver a solid photo, and that maybe the people around me that were saying, Trace, you should really be charging for your work. And then that changed to, Trace, you should really be charging more for your work. Maybe they were right, but when I realized that I could indeed make good and solid just didn't feel like enough anymore. And it's not exactly perfectionism, because there's a lot of people that do struggle with perfectionism. I actually struggle with going, other people are doing better, and not like comparisonitis, so much as going, if other people are doing better, that means that I need to have the ability to do better. And that's probably the loudest voice in my head, like, I will charge more when I'm as good as that person. And this is what I've struggled with forever. It's not just about not being good enough. It's about getting to a point of being beyond reproach. I've missed out on so many things in my life because I tried to miss the beginning and the middle just to jump to the top, so that I didn't make any mistakes along the way and look foolish. But that doesn't really make sense, because to become a pro, you have to make all the mistakes along the way so that you learn from them, and then you get the real world experience of all the technical stuff that you've learned online or at school or whatever. Because you don't get to the mountaintop of greatness if you don't walk the coals of mediocrity and growth in the middle. When you start on your photography journey, it's just all about getting things right. And we all know that feeling when we start out, like, why are my photos blurry? Why is everything blown out? Why is it so pixelated? Is it me? Is it my equipment? And those are the rabbit holes that we go down on YouTube, right? Which is great, and that's why YouTube is awesome. But most of those videos, they're not teaching us how to find our style. They're just teaching us how to be technically good. And as a side effect, I found myself wanting to chase the style of the people that I was watching, mainly as a benchmark. So I could go, well, if I can match what they're doing, then obviously I'm doing something right, which is a fantastic place to start. The only problem is that then you get to that point where maybe you're close to, or you do nail it perhaps, and you realize I've just climbed the wrong wall. Like this wasn't the destination that I actually wanted to get to, because this isn't the style that actually reflects me. So we were kind of taught how to chase technically perfect, not presence, not breathing space, not delicious or whimsical or raw, emotive, poetic, bold, cinematic. Like my work, for example, is technically good. And quite honestly, I have been proud of some of the galleries that I've put up lately. I'm not just going to sit here and say, oh, my stuff sucks. Right? It's not a pity party for one. But that doesn't mean that I haven't been feeling like lackluster and unsatisfied in what I have been creating. I've been restless for a while now, and I just haven't been able to pinpoint it. And that familiar question for photographers keeps going round and round in my brain. Where am I going wrong? As I've mentioned in past videos, I do use ChatGPT to help me pull my video together. And that looks like me brain dumping verbal diarrhea basically to my ChatGPT assistant, especially on days where my brain feels foggy and fuzzy and full, and I'm just like, I have this idea and I'm just, here is everything, and I need you to format it in a way that makes sense for a video. And then it takes it and it spits it out and it goes, here, if you put it in this order, it will make sense to the people that are watching it. So then I take that and then I put it into a Word document and then I expand on it. And that's how we end up with these videos. So I was doing this process a couple of days ago to get this week's video ready. And as I said, originally it was going to be a video about my wedding page on my website. And I said to my ChatGPT, can you please give me a list of really cool wedding photographers around the world so that I can have a look at them, and then I might be able to use them in my video as examples to talk through stuff with you guys. So that it wasn't just about my website that I was updating, but that you could see the process that I was using to get inspiration and then explain the technical elements that needed to be on the page and things like that. By the way, just a completely random question. Has anybody else named their ChatGPT? I've named mine Michelle. So if you ever hear me saying something like, oh, Michelle and I were talking about the other day, I'm actually referring to my ChatGPT. She's basically like my personal assistant. She gives me recipes and helps me with my YouTube and all sorts of stuff. But anyway, I was chatting with Michelle the other day, and I just wanted to share exactly what I typed in and what her response was. And this is what I typed in, and I'm just going to read it out to make it easier. It's really important to me that when people see the top images in my website, that they don't just go, oh, that's a nice solid standard photo. I want something with grit, something with movement. I want windswept and interesting, as Billy Connolly used to say. Not just, oh, that's a great photo. I want something that moves my dream clients, where they stop breathing just for a second while they take that in. And I don't have art like that just yet. I need to work on it, but I know the feeling I want them to have, and it's not, well, this photographer can take a solid photo. I'm not looking for solid. I'm looking for windswept. I'm looking for something that's not just breathtaking, it's intimate, it's a story, and it's got movement. And this is what Michelle came back to me with. And if you haven't used ChatGPT or one of these AI chatbots like Gemini or some of the others, I highly recommend it, because if you still haven't figured out exactly what your style is, if you're still struggling with that, it really might help to get it out, to brain dump out all the elements that you want as part of your photography and see what the ChatGPT does come back with. And you can have a really long conversation, because we did. But this is what she came back with, and I want to share it with you guys. Says Tracy, this makes so much sense. It's pure heart meets vision, and it's exactly the kind of thing that will define your signature. You're not just looking to take beautiful photos, you're chasing the feeling that stops people in their tracks. That windswept and interesting feeling that hits deep in the chest. It's powerful that you can articulate it so clearly, even if you haven't captured it yet. Let me try to reflect this back to you. You're not looking for technically perfect. You're looking for emotionally true, raw, cinematic, unexpected, like a fleeting moment in a European film you can't quite explain but can't stop thinking about. You want blur, not because you missed focus, but because it feels like a memory. Grain, because real life has texture. Wind in the hair, the dress, the trees, a sense of motion, not stiffness. Moments that breathe, not just smile. And photos that don't pose a story, but are a story. And we went backwards and forwards on this for quite a while. Me going, yeah, I like this, but I don't like this, and I want to include this, and it's kind of like these films, and it was really interesting having that conversation and being able to really refine exactly what it was that I was trying to get across. And truthfully, this was the aha moment that I really wanted to share with you guys, because it was like the penny finally dropped. And I'll admit, I can be a little bit dense some days, so sometimes it takes the penny just a little bit longer to drop. But I realized that this was exactly what I was missing from everything. I spent all of last week's video talking about how the client feels, and I forgot to tack on how you want to feel, because that is going to inspire your entire photography offerings. That's what needs to frame everything for you. That's what's going to help you decide on your ideal client. The wording that needs to mesh together here is, this is what I want my clients to feel, and this is the medium that I want to provide it in. And I know that medium isn't exactly the right word to use here, but just go with me on the concept. So maybe this medium for you is bold colors. Maybe it's film. Maybe it's gorgeous editorial style shots that makes the bride feel like $1,000,000, like she's a model for the day. Or maybe you love Art Deco and you like to use retro presets and a lens from the 70s. Your personal style can be a combination of the way you take photos, the editing that you do, and the gear that you use. So don't feel like you have to use all the modern gear. I see lots of photographers actually still using film because of that nostalgic retro feel. And yes, I am feeling my age when I'm describing my own childhood as retro. But anyway, my ChatGPT, my Michelle, took my chaotic brain dump of ideas, because we were going backwards and forwards on this for quite a while, and she reflected it back to me in a way that somewhere inside I did know that, but I just didn't know how to articulate it. And I really wanted to share it with you guys. This is what she came back with. Tracy's Poetic Brand Manifesto. I'm not here to take solid photos. I'm here to give people a moment they didn't know they needed. Something that breathes, that moves, that feels like memory. I don't chase perfection, I chase presence. Wind in the air, blur through the whiskey glasses. Moments that feel like memory before they even end. I want my photos to sit in your chest like the last scene of a film you can't stop thinking about. Gritty, honest, intimate, like a slightly weathered poetic fairy tale, soft around the edges and full of feeling. My work isn't perfect, it's real. It's not just light and focus, it's movement and mood. It's emotion told in layers, cinematic, whimsical, a little messy, and a little wild. This is photography that doesn't just capture a moment, it feels like one. And that last line is exactly what I want to provide my clients through all parts of my photography. The really interesting part about finding your style is that you realize that it doesn't lock you in, it actually frees you up. You're no longer trying to match somebody else's look or tweak your presets for hours, trying to make it look like some other photographer that you're trying to emulate. You're making decisions from the inside out rather than the other way around, which is much harder in my opinion, because you come to realize it's not just about aesthetic, it's about identity, and that will transform your client experience. Imagine if you started to get clients that came back to you saying exactly what it was, the feeling that you wanted them to have, if that makes sense. Man, I love how I can almost feel myself back in that moment because of the blur. It's like I keep waiting for it to move. Or maybe the feedback that you want is more along the lines of, this was everything I'd imagined for my wedding day. It was beyond perfect, and I felt like the princess that married her Prince Charming. My photos are like something straight out of a wedding magazine, and I can't thank you enough. So that's kind of marrying together, and yes, pun intended, the feeling that you want to give with the clients that want that exact same feeling. And you might be thinking, but what if I want to go in two different directions? What if I want to do weddings and branding? The truth is, you don't need everything to match, you just need it to feel cohesive. And that starts with your voice, your values, and your why. If what ties it all together is presence, storytelling, and soul, then you become the brand. It's not the color palette, it's not the editing style, it's you. And funnily enough, it kind of actually opens up more creative opportunities, because once you know the style that you're going after, you're all of a sudden not trapped by the structure that you've had to use in the past for a specific type of photography. So for instance, I associated dark and moody with the feeling of depth that I wanted in my photos. And what I realized is that you can actually get depth and moody and cinematic vibes even if you edit a light photo. As long as they're both showing the depth of the moment, then technically you're still on brand. And for branding photos, you can kind of still approach it in the exact same way. If you do editorial style, magazine-worthy images for your brides, you can apply that same style to a high-end brand. And again, this is why it's really important to understand who you're serving. Your editorial style might be great for like high-end luxury boutiques, for example, but my feeling of movement and grit might be better for a small artisanal business, like a bakery or a florist. The interesting thing about finding your style is I think it actually helps you nail down the exact clients that you want to be attracting. And it'll influence how you put your website together and the copy that you use on there. I mean, look at it this way. You and I could be living in the exact same town and both doing wedding photography. And if you're doing high-end editorial and I'm doing whimsical storytelling, if we were charging the exact same amount, we would still not be in competition with each other. Because if somebody wants to look like a princess, they're gonna pick you. And if somebody wants a more raw boho style, they're gonna pick me. So I really hope that you're starting to piece this together and see how important this is as a distinguishing point of difference regardless of where you live. And before you start saying, yeah, but I live in a small town and I don't really have the luxury of being picky with my clients, I'm in the same space and I kind of thought the same thing for a long time. I thought if I'm just middle of the road, then it means that I can kind of shift and move as clients need me and I can just be adaptive. But the truth is, why run a business that you don't want to do? That's like saying that your dream is to own an artisanal bakery that makes like chocolate croissants and things like that, and then you go and work for McCafe. Is the work you're producing actually going to feed the exact reason that you came to photography as an art form in the first place? Imagine you could charge 3 times what you're charging right now, or even industry standard. Would that make it worth it for you to be able to travel to your nearest city or your nearest big town? Basically to expand your marketing reach, and then being able to include things like travel charges or accommodation charges or things like that. Some wedding photographers say we'll work internationally and people will pay them to fly with them to wherever their destination is. So not having your style worked out and being generic just leaves you in there with all of the other generic photographers, and at that point the only thing that you're competing on is finances. Imagine being one of those photographers where a bride and groom would go, no, I would rather change my wedding date because I want to work with you. So just be uniquely you. After going through this process myself, I really genuinely recommend going through ChatGPT or Gemini and having a conversation with them. And really brain dump exactly what it is that you want to be doing. Go back and forth, refine, add more stuff in. It's like this, but kind of more like this. I want my clients to feel X, Y, and Z when they work with me. Or it's a cross between this movie with this magazine and a little bit of this photographer thrown in. And the beauty about this is that you don't even have to know how to capture exactly what it is that you want to be capturing at the moment, because by going through this process and then having ChatGPT give something back to you, or Gemini, or whoever you end up going through, it helps you articulate the exact kind of photography that you want to be doing, which actually then gives you the vocabulary to be able to go and look for it in places like YouTube. And if you can't find your answer on YouTube, you can actually just go onto Google and type in like photographers who do this style of photography, and you'll find that there's actually a lot of photographers out there who have their own courses on how they take and edit photographs. So don't think that it's going to limit you even more, or that you have to be there right now. You can have this as a, this is where I'm going, this is where I want to get to, because like I said, even if you're not doing it right now, it helps give you the vocabulary around it. And if nothing else, go and find some of those photographers that you're like, oh my gosh, their work is amazing, this is the exact style of work I want to be making, and go follow their Instagram feeds. Like, fill your Instagram feed up with amazing, phenomenal photos that you would be so proud if they were yours, and subconsciously rewire your brain while you're going through them that this is now the style that you want to be doing things in. And if you don't want to use AI, then don't. Like, brain dump it onto paper, write down everything, try and find any common elements, go and find some magazines, doesn't matter what baby magazines or house magazines or whatever. Find the style of photography that you want, rip them up, rip up colors, rip up textures, make a visual space if you want, make a Pinterest board, and then find the common elements. And if you don't have the words, turn to our old mate, the thesaurus. You know, the ones we used to have as pets running around in the backyard when we were young. Yeah. Anyway, I'll be here all week, folks. That's me for today though. And for those of you who are new to the channel, if you missed out on last week's episode on attracting higher payer clients by speaking their love language, check out that video, which I'll have somewhere up on the screen. And as always, if you got this far, if you could hit the like button and the subscribe button if you haven't already, that just lets YouTube know to share this out to a few more people, and it's very much appreciated. And I will see you guys in the next video.